Welcome on into our first live stream of the year. A little best ball action, little strategy, and a little season look ahead for what to expect here in 2023. So first off, welcome on in. If you're somebody that's been here for football for a while, or maybe one of my golf viewers that is just realizing that Luke does football content too, well, welcome to the live stream either way. Let's get together, talk some football, and try and get some of the rust off, shall we? I've already entered a best ball over an Underdog, so we're just gonna hop right on in. So first off, say hi as you guys get down here to the live stream, and we'll start it off with this. So I joined this before we started it up. I'll be doing 2, maybe 3 streams on here. I should say drafts on here. So we'll see. And we'll have ourselves a live stream, right? First one of the year. So let's kick it off the right way. We've got the 8th draft pick. So we have a good idea of the sort of players, right, that we might be taking. I have these ranked based on what I use for best ball. They're going to take a little bit of tinkering over the next few days to get them where I like. But yeah, we're still building lineups out. I think I got 67 lineups in the last check, at least on Underdog. I have like 60 or like somewhere in the mid 60s over there on Draftkings. Ideally, want to get to around 100 on each site. So we'll see how our progress works on that end. What's going on, Christian, Bradley? Hopefully you're having a solid start to your day. Over on the Patreon, you guys may have seen we have a completely new tier system going on. Prices did increase, which was really a long time coming, which is exciting. I'm really stoked for that. Obviously, it's going to reward me a little bit better for my time, but also makes it more exclusive, right? Less people are going to be leaking the sort of plays I'm putting out there. There are going to be less bumps, hopefully. And of course, the DFS content, the strategy will be all that much more exclusive, right? So I know, right, when there's a price increase and whatnot, it'd be a little bit of a bummer, right? That's, inflation, right, happens. But also there are perks that go along with it too, right? Helps support me even more as a content creator and helps me put more back into it, right? We can go to more events in person for golf. I bring you guys some of that insider access and all that sort of fun stuff. We can invest in tools. I can start to build out my website, my database, potentially even that optimizer, right? I keep hinting at. We'll see, right? That's the whole point of it. So wanted to touch on that for anyone watching this on replay. That's the idea. So we're up first here. We actually had Cooper Kupp drop to us, so I'm just going to go ahead and nab that value. I hear that he's not having the best preseason with Stafford, but it's not enough to talk me off of a player that's 6 ADP. Actually a little bit lower than that, right? Mid 5s. And I got him at 8. So your first few rounds, let's just touch on it, right? You take really the best player available. I wouldn't go crazy with it, right? When you start to deviate from just taking best player available, it's probably rounds 3 to 4, right? I'm going to try and be a little bit more wide receiver heavy for my first few picks here. That's just personal preference. Just based on the kind of players that I'm getting to this year, right? I like a lot of the mid-tier running backs. There are some top-tier running backs I like taking as well. But when somebody like a Kupp drops to me, it could be a Tyreek Hill. It can be one of the top 2, right? If you can get them at number 3, I'm going to do it every single time. So first round for me is usually wide receiver. But let's say we got down here to like pick 11, right? And for some reason, Austin Eckler was still available, or even a Bijan Robinson, I would 100% nab them up. So don't get married to one strategy or the other. You kind of got to, play it as it goes. That's why these rankings are so important. Which, by the way, if you're on the Patreon, if you're already signed up for the new tier, first off, welcome. Appreciate the support. Also, I'll be posting a new set of rankings here when I get them to a place I really like, right? I've been tinkering with them over the last day or so as I've been building more and more lineups. And I'd say probably in the next 24, maybe 36 hours, I'll have them at a spot that I like. So there will be an update over there on that end. Let's see. So we're coming up to our second round pick here. And by the way, if you have any suggestions, just throw them down in chat, right? That's what this is here for. We can make this a little collaborative, but also any questions for this year, right? Any specific players you want my takes on? It's that kind of time for it. So we have CeeDee Lamb still sitting. I mean, if CeeDee Lamb drops to me, I'm 100% taking him, right? It's another just best player available kind of situation. You're not going to have many lineups that you can start with a Cooper Kupp CeeDee Lamb, right? That's going to be a rare combination. In terms of the 100 or couple 100,000 entries that we're playing against, it's probably going to be like 0.2, maybe like 0.3% that are going to have the ability to even get this combination of players. So you want to take advantage, right? We got CD Lamb 5 after ADP. We also got Cooper Kupp, what is it, like 2.4, sorry, 2.3 after ADP. We'll take that all day, right? It's not insane value, but the first few rounds, that's really all you're looking for, right? You're just trying to stack up ideally wide receivers that have high upside. And then, I mean, you don't have to take wide receivers. I do have to say that like a Josh Jacobs, I know his ADP is 27. I'd be drafting him right about now, right? In most of my drafts. So if I was, one of these guys right now, like I'd be looking at Josh Jacobs. Like he's not going to be there 9 picks, right? That's why even if one of you guys in this draft are watching this, I don't really mind. Josh Jacobs is going to get picked here real soon. He's flying up the ADP. Of course, him getting signed, right, gives us assurance that he's going to play this year. And I know the quarterback play with Garoppolo is a little bit in question, but we'll have to see how it works out. Look at that. Jacobs off the board right there. Makes plenty of sense to me. Next up for me, right, we're 7 picks away. Don't want to get too offhand here. I'm looking at another wide receiver if we can. If someone falls into our lap, let's say Josh Allen is still there, I may consider firing on him. But T. Higgins would be a no-brainer. He'll probably get picked before then. So it's going to leave us in a little bit more of a predicament, I would say. DK Metcalf kind of sticks out. Like, if T. Higgins is going to get picked here, I think DK Metcalf would probably be my second preferred option. If not, let's say that both of those are gone, but Mark Andrews is there. That's probably my third take. Let's see. So there goes Lamar Jackson. There goes DK Metcalf. Okay. T. Higgins is still there. I like that a lot. I know he's not the number one wide receiver, but his quarterback's Joe Burrow, high volume offense. The guy still goes off for like 20, 30 fantasy points like 5-6 times a year. We're just looking for the ceiling performances, right? That's what best ball is all about. I think people forget that sometimes, right? It's not your, average week where you're trying to go out there and just, grind out average score. We're looking for upside, right? I told you if T. Higgins was there, not even thinking about it, just an instant fire. Another player that we're getting above ADP, which the first few rounds, that's really all we do. What's going on, Evan? What's going on? Matthew says, how do I think Bijan Robinson will do this year? Living up to the hype or disappoint? So the issue I have with him, I have zero exposure right now, Matthew. Part of that is just based on my draft position. Some of the players I like a little bit more. Also, I worry about the Falcons offense, right? I worry about them actually giving them red zone opportunities. They were extremely inefficient last year. I know that they have a lot of young players returning. They are going to look more efficient, at least a little bit more efficient this time around. It's just how much more efficient, right? If they are actually going to be at least like league average when it comes to their offense, he brings a ton of upside, right? I mean, that would make him probably at least a top 5 running back, in my opinion. But there's always the chance they suck again, right? So we'll see. There's, Tyler Algier back there, Cordarrelle Patterson that are probably going to get some targets too. I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't have the exposure though, right? Let's see. What do they have his projection at? Just like out of curiosity. I can't click on him there. Yeah. I don't know. I think he'll have an okay season. I'll say that. I don't know if he'll be worth the top 5, the top 10 draft pick, though. I think I'm kind of in line with you there, man. Got a draft in 30 minutes. You're so hyped. Dude, that's sick. Is it PPR? Are you just playing with some buddies with some regular scoring? What are you going with, Evan? That's pretty sweet. Speaking of, guys, we're going to do a community live draft here at some point. I'm going to actually be on the channel here. We'll all get into a Discord call, talk some shit as we build some lineups. I mean, look at this, guys. Like, I know it just seems boring. We're just taking best player available for these first 4 rounds. I told you I wanted to be wide receiver heavy, right? We're looking for some, splash performances, some ceilings. And we've had 4 high upside, really good offense players, right? I mean, I guess for Cooper Kupp, right? Exception to Cooper Kupp, Dallas, Cincy, San Fran are going to be pretty productive offenses that we're drafting well below ADP. I mean, this is just, I know we're looking for analysis, right? We're looking for hot takes. I promise we'll get there at some point. But when we're, just getting gifts like this, I'm going to continue to take them, right? We're not going to overthink it out here. 12 PPR league, you've got pick 5. So Eckler or Tyreek, I really like Tyreek Hill. So in best ball for me, it's like no doubt taking Tyreek Hill. Obviously, in a 12-team league, it kind of changes things because especially for regular fantasy, right, running backs are a lot more valuable in that kind of format. So I would say if there are wide receivers towards like your second pick that you feel really comfortable with, go with Eckler. If there are more running backs towards the end of that second round that you feel a little bit more comfortable with, then go vice versa. So that would be my recommendation is like look at round two, try and figure out like based on ADP where most of the people are going to be going. Now, I know in some home leagues, it can get a little bit wacky with the drafting, but rounds 1 and 2 should be pretty predictable. So I would base it on that. But I like both those picks. I've been taking a lot of Tyreek Hill in best ball. He was productive last year. I don't think much is going to change going into this year. And if you're just looking at his raw metrics from 2022, absolute stud. So I'm right there with you. He's also from Florida, right? I'm not a Miami fan. I'm a Steeler fan, but he's got the hometown thing going. All right, so we're up in 2 picks. There's just a bunch of wide receivers available again. So yeah, a lot of these guys in this draft, are taking quarterbacks early. They're taking a bunch of running backs here. So we're being squeezed into some value. The unfortunate part is, right, is now we're going to be behind at a lot of other positions. If Joe Burrow is still there, I'm taking him. We'll fix the quarterback position with 1 pick. He already has 1 quarterback, so I'm hoping that he won't take a second right here. If not, George Pickens is the pick. George Pickens, I have more than anyone else this year, and I wouldn't hate getting him again. Let's go. Let's just take Joe Burrow there. Let's fix our problem. But getting back to Pickens, guys, first off, last year, he put up okay numbers, right? 140 fantasy points. More important part is, at least in my opinion, you can see I have him ranked higher than Deontay Johnson. He's the Steelers' number 1 wide receiver. He's the wide receiver that Pickett is most comfortable with. I went to school with Kenny, had classes with him, saw him play for 5 years over there in Pitt, and he really likes his number 1 wide receiver. That was Jordan Addison at Pitt. Obviously went to USC the year after Pickett went in the draft. And he's a really good wide receiver of his own, right? But Pickett finds his guy and feeds him. Addison and him broke all the records at Pitt, every single one of them out there. And to me, Deontay is not that guy, right? Just from watching practices, watching preseason games, how they interact, it's George Pickens. So if you're going to take a Steelers wide receiver, I would take Pickens, and honestly, I would reach for him. And I hate saying that, but I would. I reach for him in a lot of drafts because I do think he's being underevaluated. And I'm not just saying that as a Homer Steeler fan. I'm saying that as a Steeler fan that knows that I think he's the number 1 wide receiver there, and it's not particularly close. We're going to look at some props here too. I think it's a good time to do so. I played this George Pickens over 30.5 because last year he went over in 10 of 16 games that he played. And 2 of the games he had 0 catches in, right? Those were 2 unders that he had. And he was rookie. He had a rookie quarterback thrown to him. Mitch Trubisky thrown to him for a lot of the early games, and he still went off, right? Imagine him, second-year player, more established offensive identity, better quarterback play, hopefully, right? We'll have to see with Pickett. You'd have to think that he looks even better than the 10 for 16 record last year, right? And if you extrapolate that out, it looks like an 80-90% hit rate prop. So it looks like they took it off. Hopefully it's at the same number. And then Justin Jefferson, he's at 92.5 over here on Prize Picks. So that's a 9-yard discrepancy. I like that too against Tampa Bay. Not a real tough matchup there. So we're about to pick again. We can't get too far off track here, right? And they're all these wide receivers are still here. These guys are, it's just like a horrible draft. They're all going for running backs. This might be the 0 RB draft. Sometimes people dream about this, right? Just getting the opportunity to take all these ceiling performance wide receivers. And it's hard to pull these drafts off. But, like Javonte would be the running back I would take, right? I'll put him in my my queue for right now as we think this through. Somebody just took George Pickens, right? So that would have been the pick. That's why this is a little bit more complicated now. Like we're reaching now for Javonte Williams, which I guess we're going to do, right? We're reaching by 9 ADP to take a running back at this point. which I hate to do, but I do like Javonte Williams this year. He's going to be the clear number one back. They've reported that he might not get a huge workload early in the year, but people forget, right? You're building best ball lineups to win first place, right? To win the first place prize there towards the end of the season. You don't care about the first 4 games, right? You've still got to score points. That's why we're going to take other running backs, right? That's why we're going to hope our wide receivers really perform well early in the year. So that when Javonte Williams is rounding into form, hopefully when we get into the playoffs, right, we get into the 12-man elimination rounds, for example, that Javonte is getting his full workload, right, and hopefully Russell Wilson doesn't suck this year because we need Russ not to suck. We need him to cook for Javonte to show any sort of a pulse. How do I feel? Oh, let's see. A few other questions first. Don't want to skip around too much. If you have the second pick in best ball, who are your first and second options? Well, if Justin Jefferson is still there, I'll take him, right? If not, it's Chase. Very simple. One of those two for sure. Based on ADP, you can get Pollard around 2, or you can go Eckler and try and get Garrett Wilson. I would go with the Pollard round 2. I think that makes a little bit more sense. I mean, Tyreek, I love. Pollard, I think, is going to have a really good year too. I would go that direction. How do I feel about Eckler, number 1 overall, full PPR, start 2 running backs and 2 wide receivers? I don't hate it, Steven, right? In a full point PPR, right? That's a huge difference compared to like Underdog best ball. Eckler's a cheat code. So I don't hate that at all. That's fine, Steven. Especially because it's a regular fantasy league, right? You're not talking about best ball where it's just so much different with these wide receivers. Let's go Pickens. Hope all that you said becomes reality. Yeah, me too, man. He's at least if you watch the preseason, you watch some of the practices, Pickens is definitely the one getting the attention. Is Austin Eckler good? Just doing this for fun? Eckler, yeah, he's really good. Last year, he scored like 300 fantasy points. He was, I believe, the number 1 or the number 2 fantasy running back. So, yes, he's good, and he gets the largest workload of really anyone in the league. I see obvious pick, Rachaad White here. That took zero thought whatsoever. Rachaad White, in my opinion, is going to be one of the best ball running backs that you can take compared to ADP, right? In fact, you can see I just took him above ADP because I think he's going to have that good of a year. He's getting all the number 1 reps down there for the Bucs. In fact, they think he's going to be a 3-down back. So we're getting a starter on a shitty team, right? So don't get me wrong, right? It's not like we're getting a starting running back on a productive offense, but they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. Tampa Bay is not going to be good this year. They're going to be playing from behind in almost every single game. And Rachaad White's a receiving back, right? And I know it's a half a point PPR. It's not full point PPR, but that matters. And in my opinion, Rachaad White's a top 20 fantasy running back. At this point, he's being drafted like he's like a 20 to 30 range running back. And I think that's a little bit of a mistake there. So I'll take Rachaad White. I don't know if he's getting as much respect as he probably should be. We still don't have a tight end. I have no issues with that. I have a lot of punt tight ends that I like. So if one falls to us, we'll take a tight end. If not, I have plenty of options down low to make it work. What I'm trying to get here is more wide receivers. I know, right? Mind blowing, right? You took wide receiver the first 4 rounds. You like taking your wide receivers. I feel pretty good about these 2 running backs. Javonte, Rachaad Williams. I think they're going to be bell cow backs for me this year. I think I can count on them to score for me in like 75% of weeks. So we're still going to have to take some fill-in backs, obviously. But, Joe Burrow is as close to a sure thing, consistent thing at quarterback as you're going to get. I know starting the year injured isn't ideal. But once again, just like Javonte Williams, we're not playing for weeks 1 through 4, right? We're playing for the playoffs. And we're going to have other quarterbacks to supplement for those first 4. I don't even know if he's going to miss time, right? Maybe he's just a little bit less efficient early in the year because of the injury. We'll see. Right, we'll have other guys to fill in. It's not an issue. I think people forget that about best ball, right? It's a lot more about the end of the year than focusing early on. Considering taking Michael Pittman, even with some of the injury concerns going on, outside of that, Quinn Johnston, I don't have a ton of exposure there. I'm hearing a lot of good things about him out of camp. Yeah, let's just go ahead and add Michael Pittman. I'm not as worried about the injuries because we have so many good wide receivers ahead of them. Odds are we're going to be using these 4 wide receivers in a good amount of weeks. They're not going to have a ceiling performance every single week, but it feels like Cooper Kupp, guys like CeeDee Lamb are having them like 2/3 of the time at the very least. So I like that. So let's see. We're up in 11 picks. Let's see any comments down in chat. Am I interested in any of the weekly winners or other drafts on Underdog? Gotten a couple weekly winners recently. I haven't tried them out yet, Evan, but I definitely will. I've got to brush up on the format. If you want to kind of remind me of how they work, that'd be sick. But yeah, not sure. Yeah, it's a regular 12-man redraft. Yeah, I would go with Eckler. I have no problems with that, especially if you have wide receivers like rounds 2 through 3 that you like. I think that's the thing to consider, right? Is not only who you're taking in the first round, but who's going to force you into, right? And, kind of like we were going through with Evan, if you take Tyreek Hill in that, early spot, then you can go out there and take Pollard second round. I like that a lot. I like it. Hopefully that works out, right? Someone might snipe you, but, so have backups. But I would like that situation a whole lot. We're 5 picks away. Let's see. So if Freiermuth falls to me, I may take him. Let's see. It'd be what, 2 over ADP. Let's see. Any other players that like really stand out? I've taken a ton of Kadarius Toney, but I almost have too much. So I'm probably gonna hold off on that just so I don't overexpose myself on him this year. So Freiermuth's a decent option. He'd be the first Steeler in this line. I was gonna say I don't want to take like 2 Steelers in the same lineup. Week 16, end of the year. Not sure if you're going to see it like 3 Steelers go off in the same week or even just 2 of them. So probably limit a lot of my lineups unless I'm fully stacking them, just hoping they have a nuclear game to like 1 Steeler per lineup at most, usually 0, right? Ryan Robinson, and that's just me, Anthony Richardson is falling quite a bit, and I like his fantasy prospects as the year goes on. I think that he's going to get better and better, but we do need a tight end. I don't love a lot of the punt tight end. Like I like the punt tight ends as a filler, not so much as like your weekly bell cow. So I'm just going to take Pat Freiermuth. I think that he'll be a decent option this year, right? Steelers should be a little bit more productive. He was okay as a tight end last year, right? He wasn't like breaking the slate or anything, but if we're taking a 9th round, 10th round tight end, right? We're not expecting somebody to break the slate for us. So we'll take Freiermuth, and then we'll take 1 or 2 of those punt tight ends down low. Just to give you an idea, I really, where's Taysom Hill? Taysom Hill is like, at least in my opinion, the best punt tight end that you can take this year. You take him late in drafts, right? One of your last few picks, you can get Taysom Hill. And if you look at his game log last year, I mean, he scored 141 fantasy points. I mean, it's just ridiculous. His utility is insane, right? If quarterback gets injured, right? Something along those lines, or he just plays quarterback as a gadget player, return touchdowns, so on and so forth. That could be your fill-in week at tight end, right? In fact, he might outscore, right, your Pat Freiermuth at tight end a few weeks out there. That's why I like him so much. So, like, people, like, I don't know why they don't draft him. Like, I know he doesn't have, like, a set role. That's scary. It's like, oh, you can't count on him week to week. You don't draft Taysom Hill in, like, the last round or second to the last round to sit there and use him every single week, right? You take him for the weeks where he randomly scores like an 80-yard touchdown. That's why you take Taysom Hill. Weekly winners is the top scoring roster each week. Okay, so it's just a week best ball essentially. Okay, yeah, I'll definitely check that out. That could be a huge edge because I'm sure the ADP and some of the projections aren't accounting for all the matchups, right? I'm sure they do their best to account for them, but I'm sure there is some sort of edge to go after and attack. I'll definitely take a look at that. That sounds right up my alley. So we're up here soon. Richardson's still there. He didn't get hurt today, did he? Like, what's going on here? Do we just have a lot of people that don't believe in him? We have a bunch of quarterbacks available. So it's probably a little bit more to do with that than anything. In terms of wide receivers, I don't hate getting Romeo Dubes or Dobbs. Lo siento with the pronunciation there, Romeo Dobbs. But let's see. If he's there, we're going to take Dobbs. I don't think I have much exposure to him. Yeah, so let's just take him. I don't have much exposure to Dobbs when it comes to his exposure, and I like him. He's like the number 1 wide receiver for Jordan Love. Jordan Love, I don't think is going to have a great year. Not sold on the Packers offense, but you have a player that's number 1, maybe number 2 target on that team. Christian Watson's I guess, the true number one wide receiver. But in a half a point PPR format, you're going to get more, targets. You're going to get more receptions for Romeo, most likely, which in this kind of format might equalize them a little bit. So I don't hate that one. It's part of the reason that Deontay Johnson is so good in fantasy, right? Even though he might not be the bell cow on the Steelers this year, as he is going to get a lot of targets, right? He's that over the middle wide receiver, but that doesn't always translate to touchdowns, right? To long explosive plays, which is what we're looking for in best ball, right? We want guys that can break the slate, particularly at wide receiver. And maybe Romeo, if he can go out there, get 10, 15 targets in a game, can do that. See any other comments? Yeah, that weekly winners thing, by the way, Evan, I'm going to have to check it out. I'm thinking that the rankings on that have got to be way off. I mean, I'm assuming as the year goes on too, right? When there's less time to prepare, that people are probably going to be drafting incorrectly, I'd had to imagine. See, we're up here in 10 picks. So we're probably looking at just best player available on this next go around. There's not a ton of guys in this range that I'm in love with. Zay Jones kind of stands out. If he's going to be there when we're drafting, I'll probably take him a 7th wide receiver. You can see just how wide receiver heavy I go in some of these drafts. I don't hate the idea of potentially handcuffing Javonte Williams with Samaje Perine. He might not be there by the time we come around, but the real running back range I like is about to come up. It's the guys like Tyler Algier, right? That if, Robinson goes down, immediately becomes like a top 15 fantasy running back. It's the Ezekiel Elliott that might have a much larger role for the Patriots than I think people are realizing. That if Stevenson got hurt, right, would just be in prime position to be like a top 25 running back, which at this stage of the game, 12th, 13th round, is way better than your expectation, right? So it requires injury, it requires something to go your way. But this is where you remind yourself, a little friendly PSA to everyone out there, you're entering a contest against like hundreds of thousands of other people, right? Especially over here in like one of the large field best ball tournaments, you're going to have a lot go your way, right? So like, don't build lineups just thinking that everything's going to go perfectly for you. You kind of got to embrace the chaos a little bit. So that's why this middle tier running back range, like who knows, maybe Archain, much better player than we realize, right? Rookie goes out there, absolutely kills it this year. I'm almost for sure that I do not pronounce his name correctly. So I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point when he starts going off and getting on the TV broadcast and whatnot. But there are a lot of unknown commodities down here that you can take. Wide receiver position, there are a few, high upside players we could take. But at this point of the draft, I have a lot of my wide receivers. We've got 6 guys they're all, at least in my opinion, number 1 wide receivers. I mean, Romeo, right, maybe number 2, right? Christian Watson's not really like a true alpha dog. We'll see. But I like the way that this is coming together. So I'm not going to take McKinnon. I'm considering making this play. I don't have exposure, and I want to have exposure, right? When we have an unknown commodity at running back, it doesn't take much for these guys to just explode onto the season, right? Sometimes these running backs are just really good as rookies, right? It's not like a wide receiver position or, a defender where it takes you a few years to grow into the position. A lot of times the running backs, particularly a receiving type of running back, will just explode right away, like out of nowhere, right? Undrafted at times. So we'll have to see with this one. I like the upside. I don't have much exposure, but I want to get some exposure. So we definitely want that direction. So I've got 3 running backs. We've only got the 1 quarterback and tight end, which I don't see as an issue yet. I think we're going to be okay. We got to start thinking about it, though. So 5 picks. Kirk Cousins, we're about 20 picks off of ADP. If he drops to us, I might just take him. He's a week 13 buy, so doesn't conflict with Joe Burrow, and just use him as the filler, right? Maybe he goes off for like 25 to 30 fantasy points 4 or 5 times the year. We end up using him those weeks. But more than anything, it covers our bye week. And Kirk Cousins, I know he's not a sexy quarterback by any means. I mean, he's going to have a few good games, right? He's going to have a few spike performances. When you have Justin Jefferson, now you have Jordan Addison and Hawkinson on the team, you're going to get some sort of, ceiling out of him. I don't hate that. Let's see. So we're 3 picks away. If he's still there, we'll take him as our number 1. Our backup option, We could go with a wide receiver. We could go with one of these running backs I don't hate, right? So maybe Tyler Algier. It's a good time to go ahead and take him. We'll go with one of these two. So if Cousins is there, we'll take him. If not, I'm going to go with Algier. And I don't have much Bijan Robinson exposure, so it kind of helps me with this. Taking like a calculated gamble against him this year, but we'll see if it works out. And I think that he'll still get some, carries anyways, right? So it's not like he has to get injured or it has to suck, right? For Algier to go out there and have like an okay year. Maybe Robinson just goes down for a game or two, right? And Algier's starting and he'll score like 25, 30 fantasy points. He has a few different ways to get to a ceiling performance. I don't hate it. And of course, the injury risk is always a huge part of that too. What's going on, Samuel? Nothing much. We're just doing some best ball out there. Hopefully, you're having a solid start to your day. Hey? We have Travis. He says, "What's up? Doing a redraft league currently. Football is back. Love to hear those words. There's 3 words at the end, right? Football is back. Which round am I in? We are in round. Let me double check for you. Round 12 right now. My next draft pick will be my 13th pick. So I've got 6 wide receivers, 4 running backs. I went a little bit wide receiver heavy at first. So I went Cup, Lamb, Higgins, and Samuel. All players I got well above their, I guess it's below ADP, right? I got good value on all 4 of those players. And then tried to stack up the rest of the lineup afterwards. So that's where we're at. Just our first draft, round 13. So we still don't have the backup quarterback. We still don't have the tight ends figured out. But like I said, I'm not that worried about it. You just, in best ball drafts, especially if you have like a decent player, like a Joe Burrow, right? I would say better than decent, an elite tier quarterback. Pat Freiermuth, I'd say, is like a mid-level player at tight end. That's fine. You don't need that much out of your tight ends, right? A majority of your points in the season are going to come from the ceiling performances at wide receiver, the ceiling performances at running back. But mostly those wide receiver points. Like if you look at the makeup of your best ball score by the end of the year, it's almost always your wide receiver points. They're just dominating. They're like half of your points for any given year. So let's see. And it's half because you have the 3 slots for wide receivers, but also just because of how much you score when they have a good week. So Kenny Pickett I've been taking a bunch of him this year, but I have way too much exposure. So that's just fine. Take him off the board. I don't need any more of them. So we've got Gallup. I like KJ Osborne here, honestly. Let's just take KJ Osborne. Let's do that. So KJ Osborne with no Thielen in the mix, I think is going to open up a lot more of a ceiling for him, right? He has the chance to maybe get 7-8 targets in a game, which is something that he's done before, but not very consistently. And you can never have too many wide receivers. That's just the truth. You can literally never have too many. So next up, I'm going to take another wide receiver. Again, surprise. And I want it to be one of these rookies. And kind of like what we did here with Devin, you can think about the upside with Mingo and Hyatt the same way. We haven't seen them play before. They're obviously highly touted rookies, right, with where both of them were drafted. Mingo's with a rookie quarterback. So I actually think I prefer Hyatt just a little bit more, right, because he's got Daniel Jones throwing to him. But both of them could be a lot better than we know. Right? There have been plenty of wide receivers over the last few years that have been really good as rookies, extremely productive, that no one saw coming, or at least a lot of the experts, right, weren't telling people to draft, right, in those first 5-6 rounds. So I'm going to take a chance on one of these players here. I don't have a hot take on one of them going out there and just torching it this year, but I think both of them have the opportunity to do so. I do have some week 7 and some week 13 buys to worry about. So I am going to take the week 13 buy just because we do have Higgins and CeeDee Lamb that already have that week 7 buy at wide receiver. But I would realistically take either one here, right? I think both of them are decent plays. I'm just trying to change up my exposure over there for my player pool a little bit and give myself a little bit more options. So let's see, 2 more picks here. We should be able to get Hyatt. I can't imagine that he'll get sniped. If he does, that's unfortunate. There goes Musgrave, Derek Carr. Now let me pick Hyatt. Boom. There we go. Pretty straightforward. Now, he might suck this year. He might be great, right? But what we're taking here is the upside. hoping he can go out there and spike something that people didn't see coming. And you have to take chances. I got to say this, right? No one's going to have that crystal ball about what's going to happen this year. So when you have an unknown commodity, at least in my opinion, if they're going to get opportunity, right? That's a good thing, right? The unknown might be a good prospect. Let's see where we at. What round am I in? We are around 14 now, so I'm definitely going to try and get some sort of quarterback at some point. But Purdy, I guess if he's there next round, maybe Stafford. Just with Burrow as my starter, I'm not that worried about like a backup. Like we're only going to need him for like 3-4 weeks, right? At the very most. I don't know. Take Mingo. Chark could be out a majority of the year. I'll definitely do that in a few drafts. That's for sure. I took Hyatt. Mingo went the pick after me. So I guess Matty C here really liked Mingo too. I'm going to get both of them in quite a few drafts. I'm going to try and get maybe like 10% exposure, right, to both of these players. Just, I don't know. One of them might be the rookie of the year, right? There's a bet. Bijan Robinson, right, if he's healthy, might end up actually being it. But we'll see. Maybe one of the rookie quarterbacks, right, will end up being rookie of the year, or maybe one of these wide receivers ends up being a Pro Bowler for all we know. So that's good to know. I'll take him in the next draft, Mingo. Let's see. What do they have as projection at? Am I able to see on here? It's going to load. Forgot you can't do it here on the mobile app. It's shitty. There we go. Or be up in like 2 picks. So we've got 8 wide receivers. We might be good there. We might have to wait a few more rounds. Dulcich, I'm taking if he's there. Undoubtedly would be the slam dunk pick. If he was our second tight end and we're getting him well after ADP here, I'd be more than fine with that. I think he's going to have a good year. He had ceiling performances last year. The unfortunate part is he might get picked. This guy in front of us only has 1 tight end. He probably needs one. In my opinion, he's the best available, so he probably gets picked. If he does, we're going to have to figure something out. Speaking of, I got to start thinking about that because I do think he'll get picked. So Devin Singletary is an option. We could take another one of these running backs, like hope that Dameon Pierce gets hurt, but we don't have to. We can take Dulcich. He did not get sniped. So that was a close call. I really thought that guy was going to consider taking his second tight end, particularly because the drop-off after Greg is quite large. But yeah, if you look at his game log last year, right, he's capable of yards after the catch, which for a tight end is huge. And I mean, Judy being out early, being out for the first few games might help, Greg, but just as a backup tight end, he's solid, right? We don't have to overthink that one too much. So we're okay in wide receivers. We're okay in tight ends. Quarterback is becoming an issue. It really is. And I hate all the bottom end options. Like our choices here, if we just sort by quarterback, I hate every single one of them. So I'm going to open it up to chat, okay? If you have any ideas at quarterback, Kyler Murray, I don't even know if he's going to return this year. I guess that's the issue there. Let me know. We're probably not going to take one this round. I'll wait until round 17 because I don't think we have to force it, but someone let me know. Taysom's there. I already have a lot of exposure, so maybe we just leave it at these 2 at tight end. Taysom, though, I do love this year. Running backs, we could take a chance on one of these bottom tier running backs. Just hope that they spike. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, to me, is the best option. He is getting the second team reps. In fact, is getting some of the first team reps out there for the Chiefs at this point. And of course, if somebody like Isaiah Pacheco were to go down, then potentially could be the starting running back on one of the more productive offenses in the league. So yeah, I'm going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He gets sniped for me in a ton of drafts. A lot of people are taking him. So I'm going to fish a little bit for him, right? I'm going to take him like a round early, make sure that I can get my exposure because I think people are thinking the same thing as me, right? I mean, if one guy goes down, right, he starts getting all the carries for what's going to be one of the highest scoring teams in the league. That's just at least as your 5th running back. Right? I mean, we're talking about a 16th round pick. It has upside. Like there's a reasoning for getting there. Let's see. No hot takes on quarterbacks. I'll bring them back up, guys. I need some sort of hot take. I mean, if I had to choose one myself, we had to go through it and I just had to actually pick one of these bums. It's Garoppolo, right? Garoppolo, especially because Vegas probably not going to be a great team this year. I think they'll be okay, like middle of the pack. You have to think that they'll probably be in losing game scripts some of the time. Um, Hopefully, Jimmy Garoppolo with somebody like Devontae Adams can put up some kind of production. We'll see. I mean, hasn't even been good on better teams. I mean, 240 points in 2021 wasn't horrible. Threw for just under 4,000 yards. Yeah, I guess if I had to take one, it would be Jimmy G. But like I said, all of these quarterbacks, they make me want to throw up a little bit. And I'm not going to take like Trey Lance as a backup quarterback, right? Like that's crazy talk to me. Jameis as a backup quarterback, like oh, yikes. Wait, he's not backup. What am I talking about? Sam Darnold, backup quarterback. I mean, this is so rough. All these slappies out there have like 2-3 quarter. Look at this guy with 3 quarterbacks. He's got Jordan Love, Howe, and CJ Stroud. So at least he took 3 shitty quarterbacks, right? But he's been drafting quarterback like the last 4 rounds. This guy has 4 quarterbacks. This guy has, let's bring it up, Tua, Dak, Derek Carr, and Kyler Murray. Makes sense. You're saying Jimmy G? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You're saying I agree high. There you go. Now let's just take Jimmy G. Get out of here, huh? Is it our turn yet? Not quite. Yeah, we're going to have one more round, obviously. Last round, we'll go through a few of my super sleepers that I want to get to. And more excited to hop into another real draft. I hate these last few rounds. It's just taking all these bums that you know are going to suck. Every once in a while, right, you're going to hit a diamond in the rough. For our last pick here, right, we're up in 8 picks. So we got to do this rather quickly before we start the second draft. Let's just go to somebody I'm not taking a ton of. Calvin Austin, you could take from the Steelers. He's going to play for the Steelers this year, but probably not until like the second half. I like Khalil Shakir as a little bit of a high upside option. Maybe Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis goes down. He would get a lot more playing time if that happened. Josh Reynolds for Detroit, right? I know that there's a few guys in the fold now that weren't before. I don't think he's the worst play. I've seen a few people drafting this Hardy guy. I don't know much about him, though, so I'll probably avoid him, but I've seen people drafting him at least. Yeah, let's look at wide receivers. Like if I'm going to take like a pure flyer play, a lot of times it's good to make it a wide receiver that just pops out of nowhere. Like John Mechie, right? Like he's getting some talk as one of these preseason kind of shiners. Like maybe we take him. So if anyone has a hot take for wide receiver, you can throw it down in chat too. This is what I'm leaning towards right now. I have Calvin Austin in like 2 of my builds. So like I have like 4% Calvin Austin. So it's not like I'm going crazy on the guy or anything. But yeah, one of these 3 is probably sticking out. I don't think I have any Mechie yet. So I might take him. Like it's the unknown commodities, right? The guys that we really don't know a whole lot about that I like taking, right? Like we've seen Shakir play, right? We've seen Reynolds play. Like maybe he has a bigger role this year because he was pretty damn good last year, right? When he got it, some of the playing time. Like I think Thanksgiving, Reynolds scored like 2 touchdowns or something like that. I know it was one of the island games, right? Where everyone was watching where Reynolds went off. Like it's these kind of players that, if somebody goes down, right? Somebody gets injured or maybe CJ Stroud is better than we expect. Might end up having to have them. Let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and take Mechie. Told you guys I didn't have any exposure yet, so we'll go ahead and get our first little bit of exposure there. So that's the first draft. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen because Underdog apparently doesn't want people colluding and getting into the same drafts. So we'll take it off the board and get into a new one. All right. Waiting for 10 people. So while that waits, we'll go ahead and just do a little bit of talk about this year. So for content on the Patreon, right, we'll be doing all the showdown stuff once again. We'll be going through all of our main slate content as well. So that'll be ownership projections, player pool, projected points, right, for all of those slates, and all the prop content. So one thing I did with the changes on Patreon is made it so that you can hand select the content that you want. I'll only pay for the content that you actually want to receive. And also, so you don't get a real cluttered like inbox, right? In the past, I did it just by like NFL tier versus golf tier. And like people that, couldn't bet on props, for example, were getting spammed at midnight by different prop posts. So that was another reason that I made the change, and something you can see there. Let's see, has this filled up yet? It has. So let's see what draft pick we get. So we got draft pick 10 towards the end once again. So unfortunately, we're probably going to be looking at a lot of the same different draft positions. But I will say that based on last draft, right, we had a lot of people that were just taking a bunch of running backs early, right? They were taking like 4 quarterbacks, for example. I think we're going to get a different dynamic here, right? Rather than being forced into like 4 straight wide receivers, let's see how this one plays out, right? Because I'm not married to one strategy versus the other, right? If I'm going to be in a 0 running back kind of draft, then I'll go with a 0 running back strategy. Whereas, if one of these top tier players, at number 10, right, maybe that's an Eckler, or maybe I get my first ever Bijan Robinson exposure. Maybe we make it happen. Let's see, right? It all depends on what dominoes fall before we get there. So we have a couple experienced guys in here that have the red badge on it, right? I got the red badge on the Gsluke right here. So that's good to see. I think they'll draft decent, right? You're not going to see that much craziness in this draft, hopefully. I'm hoping we get a better draft here because like last draft was just wonky. People were drafted way out of place. So top 2 dominoes fall in order. That is good to see. Let's see if they take McCaffrey or go wide receiver heavy now. Because if they start wide receiver heavy, that trend will likely continue. And if so, we might be looking at one of his running backs. So just trying to get an idea for what happens here. Come on, Fisher. You don't got to wait the whole 30 seconds. It's the first round. Should be easy. So you took McCaffrey because he got auto-drafted. That's a great sign. The 3rd pick is already auto-drafting. Let's see what this Dunning guy does. So he's going to likely take Tyreek Hill or Kupp. If not, it's a hot take. If not, he might start a different trend. Let's see what happens. Another guy is going to seemingly use the entire clock as well. It's one of those drafts, huh? You got Jimmy G. Who'd you get 101 in the redraft? Oh, so you got Jefferson first, obviously. There you go. And then, so I guess at 24, right, you were getting Hurts. And then 25, you got Olave. Seems like a good start, right? Hurts at 24, especially like regular fantasy. It's a damn good pick. And then Olave, I have a decent amount of exposure there too. So I like that, man. That's especially like a 12-man league. That's a strong start. Let's see. So he went Austin Eckler early, and then they went Kelsey. So Tyreek Hill didn't get picked till 7 here. Why couldn't I had the 7th pick for once? Right, so I can go out there and take these guys. Am I going to be forced into Bijan Robinson? Is this going to happen? I guess so. He's going to take Kupp, right? Unless he's just batshit crazy. Yeah, like what are people scared that he's hurt? Like Kupp will be fine. Okay. So he took Robinson. Okay, so we still have 0% of that Bijan Robinson exposure. Cooper Kupp at number 10 again is wild, right? We got him at 8 last time. Now we get him at number 10. That's pretty crazy if you ask me. So I know that he's injured, but like he's going to play week 1. He's at least, I think, going to put up top 5 fantasy wide receiver production. And we drafted him towards the end of the first round. It was wide receiver 6. Amon-Ra St. Brown got picked at the number 6 position by somebody who's highly experienced. I don't get that. There's just no reason to do so, right? Unless you need to force in more Amon-Ra exposure. That's just wasting pick number 6, in my opinion. So I don't really get that one all that much. We're up next. We've got A.J. Brown up there. We also have CeeDee Lamb there. I prefer A.J. Brown. He'll likely get picked, though. CeeDee Lamb, I also don't hate getting to. But if A.J. Brown goes, he didn't go. Okay, so we'll just take him. So that made my life a little bit easier. I was going to say, though, if A.J. Brown got picked, I'd consider taking Barkley or Chubb. Main reason being is I think that they're just so much better than the next tier running back. You could throw in Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry into that same argument. This next set of 4 running backs is really like the last elite tier running backs, I would say. And then when you get down to like Gibbs, especially like Stevenson tier, it's a massive, massive drop off. Gibbs is kind of in between. I've heard a lot of good things about Gibbs. He's on a highly productive offense. So maybe he could be an elite tier running back, out here his first year. But, especially when you get down to this range, like not even Najee Harris, like they're just a tier below some of these top tier guys. So I like where we are with these two, wide receivers though. Guys that were getting significantly, higher than their ADP, right? Pick 15 with Brown, um, pick 10 with a Cooper Cup. We'll take it. We'll lock in that value. That's for sure. Like I said, early rounds, you just lock in that value. You just went Tyreek over Eckler, praying for Pollard next round. There you go, dude. Hopefully he falls to you. That'd be sweet. And you're on the Bijan train this year. Yeah, I could see it. It feels like every draft you see the same thing happen. Like he's about to fall to me there at number 10, and then someone takes him at 9, right? And then Cooper Cup is somehow there at number 10. It feels like every draft I've been in this year, it's been like that. So yeah, and honestly, right, that kind of drives me into Algier because I'm like, okay, well, I have no Bijan Robinson. I guess I have to hope that he gets injured or something. That's kind of the way that I've been thinking. So we're not up for 11 picks. A running back's not the worst idea. If we can get Gibbs, potentially a Jonathan Taylor, I don't hate it. The reason why I like Jonathan Taylor is I do think he's going to be traded. Pat McAfee actually said so today on his program. Was mentioning that he thinks that the Indy Colts are pretty close to trading Jonathan Taylor. And if he ends up getting traded to a good team, like book it, right? The guy's going to be the number one fantasy running back. We'll have to see. There's a huge unknown. He could get traded to a really shitty offense and completely tank his value. But kind of like those unknown wide receivers that are rookies, the upside, the unknown is almost a good thing. Somehow Josh Jacobs hasn't been picked. That is probably going to change, I'd imagine, before we get picked here in 7 picks. But if for some reason he's still there, I mean, that's the most obvious pick in human history. Pollard just went 111 and his ADP was 21. That's crazy. Well, I guess somebody really liked Pollard then. You're going to have to find someone else, huh? Let's see. Who else could you even take at running back? Like end of the second round. Like a Henry might be there, right? Barkley, if you got really lucky, might drop to you there. Maybe a Nick Chubb, like because of the way that they're drafting, right? Maybe you get some of these guys to fall like half a round. Those would be my top options. I mean, even Josh Jacobs, man. Like, I feel like Jacobs is probably not going to get drafted that early in your draft. You could do it. Like, I have him ranked as like my 24th or 25th best player, which I know you're going to be like, towards the end of that second round. It kind of makes sense. I know it's slightly above where I have him ranked, but if you have to do that worst case scenario, don't think it's crazy. So Jacobs went, Gibbs got picked. So I liked both of those. That's kind of unfortunate. Taylor might get picked in these next 3 people. So if that happens, we're pivoting to a wide receiver. Like I'm not going to fish down here for a running back that I think is inferior. So yeah, Jonathan Taylor went off the board. Metcalf's probably the guy that I'm set on right now. If he gets drafted, I clicked the wrong one there. That was stunk. We'll probably take Keenan Allen, right? If DK Metcalf goes. So yeah, DK Metcalf went. Every player that I wanted to draft got drafted just before me, which is going to happen quite a bit. We could go with a Watson. We could go up here with the Keenan Allen. I think both of them are decent options. If we're just looking at ADP value, Keenan Allen's better. But I feel like Christian Watson, in terms of ceiling performances, brings more to the table, right? He's capable of getting those like 50, 60-yard touchdowns like we saw last year. Different guy throwing to him, right? Jordan Love, I think it's going to be a significant downgrade when it comes to the talent performance, when it comes to like the quarterback throwing him the ball. But he's a high upside, really flashy, fast wide receiver that does bring utility to the table. So you've got 3 decent wide receivers. I really liked our first 2 picks. I feel like we kind of got screwed a little bit there with our 3rd round pick, not being able to take a player that I wanted. But we get to turn around here, draft again. And if I was going to take one of these guys, I don't hate Etienne and I don't hate Najee Harris. Now, I can guarantee you that this is because I'm a little bit more positive on the Steelers offense than most people are, right, as a Steeler fan. But if Kenny Pickett is better this year, like he's actually looked, which is a huge if, right? You can tell I'm not sold on it, right? If he is actually better, then Najee Harris might have a year, but we'll have to see. Etienne to me is the pick though. If he doesn't go at least. So yeah, let's take Travis Etienne. I don't have a bunch of exposure, but he's on a Jacksonville offense that in general I'm very high on this year. Trevor Lawrence, I expect to improve once again. You've got guys, more wide receivers on that team. You have seemingly like every skill position player that is, I mean, maybe not Pro Bowl level, but still really good, really solid across the board. So I like that for Etienne. I don't like the fact that he has more competition now at running back, but not everything's going to be perfect. You can always take the handcuff, right? Always go down here, take Bigsby towards the end of the draft, but we'll see. So let's add everyone else back in here. Let's see. Any comments down there? Could reach for Jacobs. Barkley went 107. That's what I'm thinking, man. Like, if you have to, you could do that. Derrick Henry fell to you, love it. Perfect, right? It's easy when it's somebody like Derrick Henry, right? Who's an absolute tank. But I'm telling you, watch out for Josh Jacobs this year. Like, he got so many carries last year for that Raiders team, and obviously with Jimmy G, who was the commander, the engineer of one of the more rush heavy offenses that we've seen over there for the 49ers. Could be the same thing, right? Could just bring that same mentality. So Najee Harris is still there. That's pretty crazy. I think that he should get swooped up here soon. You can see a bunch of these guys up until the Spike dude don't have a running back. So maybe it falls to Spike, right? Maybe Spike lucks out here and can take Najee Harris. I can almost assure you that if he falls, that he'll take Najee. So let's see. Only one more pick. Maybe he gets his running back there. I'm jealous. I would definitely take him if I could. So let's see. I'm 12 picks away, right? So we're not getting Najee Harris. But maybe this other guy with the red badge can get it. Low-key rooting for him. Let's see. Does he take him? Or does he go down and take like Joe Mixon maybe? He's not going to take another running back. Yeah, he's got to take one of these running backs. He's not going to take a quarterback or a wide receiver. At least I wouldn't think. So he took Najee Harris. Okay, there you go. So he lucked out. This guy got Najee Harris like 10 under his ADP and didn't have a running back yet. So those are the kind of drafts that you have to love. Sometimes you got to root for other people, right? To go out there and have a draft. Let's see. Now he gets to pick again. If I had to guess, Joe Mixon. Who'd he take? He took Deontay Johnson. That's a mistake. Reaching for Deontay Johnson when he's not the number one wide receiver is a huge mistake. So he lucked out just before, was able to get the Najee Harris exposure. Maybe he's a Steeler fan. Maybe he's going to try and stack the Steelers. So just knowing that, I'm going to take George Pickens now, right? I told you guys I love George Pickens. I'm going to take him before this guy can try to. Because, like, look at this, right? He's got the Najee Harris. He's got the Deontay Johnson going. You ain't slick. I see what you're doing there, Chief. And I'm going to get my guy, who, speaking of, I just want to look at my exposure. I got to see how much Pickens I have right now. It's disgusting. It'll give you guys an actual number. So George Pickens, where's George Pickens at? I only have 22%. Okay, we got to get that up. Those are rookie numbers. We got to get that 22% to like 45%. The guy's going to go off this year. So we're up in 5 picks. Look at that. Pickens would be up pretty much like 5 picks anyways, right, per my rankings. Let's see if we can get him there. Jacobs will turn out to be better than Kamara in the long term, for sure. Yeah, I don't even think that's a hot take, Joe. I think that that's probably the consensus at this point. Because that dumb guy took Pollard 1-1, he went Etienne 202. So he took 2 running backs early, and then the guy I got in the 4th round, he took in the 2nd round. Oh, my Lord. Hey, that's going to be a plus EV draft, though, bud. You're drafted against some interesting characters. They're trying to take their guys, I guess, right? So let's see what has happened. So Pickens went. Somebody fished on Pickens early. So that's unfortunate. But now we have George Kittle there. We could take. I actually really like Darren Waller this year. Kenneth Walker at running back, though, I can't pass up. The guy is playing for one of the more rush-heavy teams in the league, right? Seattle loves to run the ball. And I know Kenneth Walker, like, maybe not as much production last year as what you were hoping for, but he's a starter on like an okay team. Like that's enough for me. Like I'm not with running back position. Like I'm not as picky. Let's say that, right? Like if they're just getting touches and they're on a decent team, that's really all I care about. So George Kittle is there. I may take him. You can see I have him ranked significantly better than his ADP. And so, yeah, he got picked one before me, and that's unfortunate. We do have Kenneth Walker. We could start to think about a Seattle stack as a potential like second quarterback thing later on. We do have Jackson Smith there, who I definitely prefer Lockett over him. Let's see. Yeah, we're going to take Tyler Lockett, right? I know a little bit of an unknown with the health, right? He's always injured. So I feel like that's the constant narrative with Tyler Lockett. But the fact of the matter is, when he plays, he's extremely productive, right? No matter what quarterback is throwing him the ball. And when you're comparing him to a completely unknown player, right, with a rookie here, Jackson, um, I'll take the Lockett player all day. Right? I have both of them projected well. You can see I have Jackson projected better than his ADP too, right? You can see he's at the top of my list despite being 72 in ADP. I don't hate either one, but I definitely prefer Lockett, right? Lockett's usually not available, right? When we're getting here to this part of the board. So there goes Mike Evans. I think that he's a decent play. He's the type of receiver that doesn't need a good quarterback, right? He's a long ball sort of player, fades, touchdown dependent kind of player. So you're just looking for that big play upside. I never hate, like, even with shitty quarterbacks like Jameis Winston in the past, right? Like, he was still getting the job done. So we're up in 13 picks. I've got two okay running backs. Frankly, I want more wide receivers. Cortland Sutton, by the way, guys, this is a player that I like much, much better than his ADP. With Jerry Jeudy being a little bit injured, right? Maybe a little bit hobbled. And in general, I do think that Russell Wilson, now this is kind of a hot take, right? I think he's going to be better this year. I'm not saying that he's going to be good. There's a difference between better and good, right? But I do think that Russell Wilson, now that he's going to have a coach, right, that's not going to take shit, a coach that has publicly stated that Russell Wilson's job is not just like completely safe, right? It's not like he's going to be handed that job like it's nothing. I think that that's something to consider. Is maybe that lights a fire under him. Right? He gets a coach that's really good with quarterbacks, that's known for being really good at play calling, for setting up schemes and whatnot. Maybe it works out. Maybe Russell Wilson does have a decent year. Either way, though, even if he's just okay, right? Let's say he just gets slightly better, right? I think Cortland Sutton could very well be the number one wide receiver on that team. Just based on what I see, this is my take on it. I think Cortland Sutton is more talented than Jerry Jeudy, but I guess a lot of people disagree with that because, obviously Judy's listed as like the number one. A lot of people are taking him. Look at that. Somebody sniped him from my ass. Hopefully this guy's not in the draft listening. That'd be annoying. Let's see. Who else does he have? Maybe he did because he took Jacobs. He took Jacobs earlier. Let's see. Anyone else that he sniped? No, it doesn't look like he sniped anyone else. We'll see. It's a shady character, this Jay Fisher guy over here, taking my boy Cortland Sutton from me. So we're back up to the board. There goes Addison. I was going to say my boy Jordan Addison I'd take in a heartbeat. He went to Pitt, obviously. But, we still have Jackson there. Seattle stack? Anyone? Is that going to be a thing? Are we going to luck out and get him? Because if so, I don't hate taking Geno Smith as our backup quarterback. I mean, that's like, he's not going to be our starter, right? We're not going to count on Geno every week, but like maybe Seattle goes off, wins us some money in the playoffs. I've seen crazier things happen, right? You have to build these lineups for best ball, just assuming some crazy shit. And look at that. There goes. Look at this. He's the guy who took Bijan from me in round 1 too. Oh boy. Hopefully these guys aren't sniping me. So I'm going to take James Cook. I've heard a lot of good things about James Cook of late. He's getting most of the running back snaps for the Buffalo Bills. He's also been extremely productive when he's played, right? High yards per carry, has gone out there, had some of those explosive rushes for like 50 yards and a touchdown. I really like James Cook, especially because he's seemingly the lead running back on one of the best teams in the league. That's huge, right? This range in terms of running backs, I really like. So I might take a fourth running back, right? And I know last draft we went super wide receiver heavy, but if there are going to be players here that I just really like Rachaad White, we took him last draft. I'm that high on Rachaad White, by the way. I think he's going to have that good of a year, but we're going to take him. We're going to take 4 running backs, which I hardly ever do this, but these are all 4 young, high upside running backs. On offenses, I guess, except for Kenneth Walker, that I think are pretty decent, right? And, Seattle might surprise me, right? Might go out there, score a good amount of points like they did last year, but we'll see. How much Deontay Johnson do you want in your portfolio? Probably like 15% at most, maybe like 10%, Brandon. I'm not a huge fan. Like, I feel like in terms of the ADP, he's a little bit overvalued, so I suppose. Like, that's probably the best word, like overvalued. Love Son, Judy out a few games, Tim Patrick out for the season. Yeah, I think Greg is going to have a good season. And, Son in general, like he's decent after the catch. Like I know Judy is too, but like I like that for upside, right? Go out there, break a tackle or two. Maybe you get that 40, 50-yard touchdown. That's what we want for best ball. So still no quarterback that we've taken. I don't want to make it as much of a problem as last draft. So if Anthony Richardson is there, I'll take him. If Tua's there for our next draft pick, I'll take him too. I'd probably prefer Tua because they do have a good amount of Anthony Richardson so far, but I'll take either one. Both of them would be well below ADP. There's a good chance that maybe they get drafted, right? Because we still have to wait 12 picks. But a man can dream, right? We can hope that we can get some sort of value out here, but we'll see what happens. So there goes Romeo. Let's see, tight end. Yeah, there's some decent tight ends coming up. So we're not going to force in a tight end this round or next round. We'll probably wait a few. We could take Taysom in this draft, right? We didn't do it last time. We could take, I don't hate Chig Okonkwo, right? He's a high upside yards after catch kind of guy that can get you like that spike play, not even necessarily a spike performance, can do it in one play. Tyler Higbee, he's always better than what people draft him at. Evan Ingram, right? He's another spike performance kind of tight end, right? Another yards after catch kind of guy. Those are the kind of tight ends I'm looking at. So we'll see. So there goes Tua. Let's hope Anthony Richardson stays. I have a feeling he's going to get picked, though. So we're going to have to think maybe it's an Evan Ingram, right? Maybe he's going to be our backup play. Our backup to the backup might be someone like, I already have too much Kadarius Toney. We're going to avoid that. I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully one of these two is there. I don't really want to think other than those two because I don't want to take Pat again. I already have enough exposure to Pat, at least for right now. And I'm not taking Toney again. Right? Toney's someone I'm drafting above ADP, but not in this draft. And the reason why with Toney, I think Toney's just a talented ass player. Like if you've seen him play, how shifty, how quick the guy is, it's notable. And then you put him with Patrick Mahomes, right? The best quarterback in the league. I like everyone Kansas City. Like it's not just Toney. I like Justin Ross. Obviously, I like guys like Travis Kelce, but give me all the Marcus Valdes-Scantling. Give me all the guys there towards the end of the draft that you can take for at essentially nothing late. I'll just give me all the Kansas City Chiefs that you want. So Richardson is still there. Oh boy, we have one pick left. Oh, and this guy's been sniping me. I'm 100% sure he has been. Look at that. I start talking about Kansas City and he takes Sky and Moore. Oh, sorry, wrong guy there. That was last round. Look, he took Sky Moore early as hell, didn't he? I guess 91's his ADP, but yikes. Okay, we got Anthony Richardson. We'll go with it. So it's not my favorite pick. It's not like I am 100% sold, right, that Anthony Richardson's going to be a legit thing this year. But much like some of the other rookies, right, that you can take in best ball, we don't know. Maybe he will be really good. He's a mobile quarterback, right? He's going to contribute both on the ground and through the air, which typically is a really good thing for fantasy, right? Maybe he's, a wish.com version of Justin Fields. I'd be okay with that, right? So let's throw him in there. Our next pick, I don't hate taking the Njoku. He's, I think, just much better than people realize. Has much more spike performances than I think a lot of people realize too. We could go with a wide receiver, right? We need to start kind of building those up too. I don't have much Odell Beckham Jr. exposure, but I also don't think he's going to have a very good year. I do have some Tyler Boyd, right? He does have the blow up performance from time to time. Ooh, this is a little tough. I don't love our options here, but I'm going to take Njoku. We're going to take him for his upside, right? For his 20-point performance every once in a while. And we're going to have to add in at least one more, maybe even two more tight ends to supplement. But I like how we're starting there at that position.
In terms of quarterbacks, I'm going to try and take potentially a Kenny Pickett later, potentially a Jordan Love, one of those two. I don't hate. And just for full transparency, Kenny Pickett used to be, getting drafted at like round 19. I have like 60% Kenny Pickett, drafting him in like round 20, by the way. So I don't know if I need to take him. I'll probably actually just take him out of there. I have enough exposure to Kenny Pickett in like the last round of drafts that there's like no reason for me to take him now in like round like 14, 15. Like he's getting drafted like round like 12, 13 now in a lot of drafts. There's no reason for me to take him like 4 or 5 rounds earlier than what I was earlier, right? That's just, it feels bad. So people are coming around to him. I got a lot of really good value with him, but it's probably a little too much too late at this point. So we are 1-4-4-1 right now. Let's see what's going on down there. Luke, just curious, do you have any Prize Picks NFL season long slips? Not yet, Matthew. So once I do, I probably will post them, but I'm not a huge like season long guy. I don't like having to wait like 6 months to go out there and cash a slip. I do have one in over here on Underdog. So I meant to show this one before. So this is the slip that I was talking about before, right? I took this George Pickens. This is for just week 1, by the way. Over 30.5 yards, and it's Justin Jefferson over 83.5 yards. I did have some season-long exposure, but they already got taken off the board. So I don't want to tease you with that. You can't even look at it. Let's see, so we're 10 picks away. By the way, did they remove both of those props? Let's see. Let's double check. So Justin Jefferson is bumped up. Wow. And did they bump up the George Pickens? They did. That's insane. They're that reactive to bumps. I mean, that is like next level stuff. Well, I guess that's how they're gonna rock out here. So that slip that I took just a little bit ago, less than I guess 45 minutes ago at this point, has already been bumped up that much. That's incredible. So hey, we got good value locked in, that's for damn sure. But they're surely moving a lot of stuff too. We've got Prize Picks to choose from, right? I'll be doing a lot of prop stuff over here on Prize Picks. So if you guys have any questions about the board, throw it down in chat. I'll go through them. But it looks like the board here might be a little bit more accurate than what we had on Underdog, at least per what I was looking at. We do have this free square with Dak Prescott to use. And just to show you that slip I did over here, it was Watson over Justin Herbert rushing touchdowns, which is quite a weird market, right? Especially when one's a mobile quarterback and one really isn't. Like, I know Herbert can move, but he's not going to be trusted to run often. And then on the other side, right, it's Pickens versus Addison. I think Pickens is the clear number 1 red zone wide receiver for the Steelers, especially in the red zone, right? And then Addison is the number 2, probably the number 3 option, right? Behind Justin Jefferson, of course, and then probably behind Hawkinson, right? Especially in the red zone. So 1 versus 3, and then, a guy who's actually going to try and run for touchdowns versus someone who might sneak for a few during the year. This felt like it was absolutely free. So yeah, if I'm going to tie up my money for any sort of extended period of time, I want it to be for a really good prop, right? For something that I feel like I'm getting a lot of value on. So let's go ahead and just take Zay Jones. To me, this is a no-brainer pick right here. We only had the 4 wide receivers, so adding another was probably the prudent move. And Zay Jones is another player playing for a productive offense, right? That's why we took Etienne before too. That is just going to get exposure. Right? I know he's the number 3 wide receiver now behind who's their number 1. I know obviously Christian Kirk, Ridley, I guess you could say would be the number 1. One of those two, I guess would be the number 1. So he's the number 3 behind those two, but they threw the ball like 40 times a game last year. So I think there's enough to go around. We could probably take Rashee Rice. I don't have that much exposure there, but we'll take it. I want to get as much of these Kansas City wide receivers as humanly possible, right? Whether it's Rice, whether it's taking an MVS down there, Justin Ross, right? Towards the end of drafts, I think all of those players are viable this year. Every single one of them. If they play for Kansas City and they play wide receiver, they're viable. That's for sure. Let's see. Yep, jumped on that one for sure. What's up? A couple more Underdog drafts left before the season starts. Who are your favorite late round running back steals? So a few that I like. So I have some Foreman. right? That's kind of assuming an injury, right, for Khalil Herbert. So if that happens, I think Foreman will get a good amount of workload. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit. Let's see. There's not a ton I like. I try to take the middle tier ones a little bit more. If you're going to call late round, like rounds 12 and later, I guess you could throw like Algier into there. You could throw the rookie running back for the Dolphins in there. Kendre Miller, even for the Saints, I think has some kind of upside. But if you're talking like really late round, like last round kind of late, huh. I mean, I took some Gus Johnson, so I guess I'll point out Gus Johnson. I have him in a few builds. Same kind of thing, right? You have to assume injuries or even multiple injuries for that to pay off. Devin Singletary, right, playing behind Dameon Pierce. He's the kind of player that could get a decent workload, right? If there would be an injury situation. It's a lot of those kind of players, right? Like they're not going to have a set role, but in a best ball kind of draft, they could pay off, right? They could be the nuts. You never know. You're a force on slips. Yeah, they just bump everything I touch. I don't get it. Look at Chase, 5.5 receptions, covered that line in all but one game. As music to my ears. And the matchup was okay if I remember, right? It wasn't like an atrocious matchup. I'll enter it right now if it's a good matchup, man. Because, and yeah, we'll bring up the game log too so we can show everyone. But yeah, Cleveland, okay. The issue with Cleveland, right, is that you're going to have less plays to work with, right? They're going to do everything in their power to control the clock. So, let me look at that game log, huh? I don't want to unplug my mic though, because my mic's been really bad. Okay, so I can't type it in. I'm just gonna take your word on that he covered it all the times. I wish I knew about how much he was covering it though, right? Because that matchup, I don't love. It's not like they have a good corner to match up on him. Like no one's gonna shut down Jamar Chase, but ugh, the Cleveland Browns are just such a terrible team to take props against because of how they play, right? Like they know their strengths, but it's so bad when it comes to fantasy. You personally like J.K. Dobbins, Swift, and Monty. Yeah, so if you're talking that early, right? I thought you were talking a little bit later in the draft. Um, yeah, I don't hate any of those options, but I don't know if I'd say those are super late though, right? Those are still like halfway through the draft. 4 minute a bunch too. Yeah, like towards the end, it's all injury concern stuff. But in terms of like actual established players, like Dobbins makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously Swift, who knows what his role is going to look like with the new team. But yeah, the upside's there, right? Like, what if he has a much bigger role than we're expecting, right? What if Monty ends up being a much larger role player than we think, right? Maybe Gibbs doesn't get all the targets, right? Or all the rushes over there in Detroit. I like it. I like the way you're thinking too. So we're up in one pick. So we have 6 wide receivers. We still need another tight end, but we have a lot of options left. Kenny Pickett is there. And, I said I don't need more exposure, but like now we're getting them below ADP, I guess. Is it the worst idea? I mean, we need a quarterback and we need one that's going to contribute, right? So yeah, we're definitely going to take Pickett here. Normally I'm drafting him around this point in drafts anyways, right? If I'm going to take him. And in this kind of draft where we have Anthony Richardson, who I don't know, how productive he's going to be early in the year, we need some sort of like early contributor. So we'll take Pickett. I don't love it because I already have so much exposure, particularly at a better ADP, but it is what it is. So we'll take him there. I don't hate Dolchik, right? I know we took him last draft, but once again, yeah, we're going to take him as our second tight end, right? I know we start with Njoku, who's like kind of like a mid-tier, kind of just like like pretty decent tight end. But you mix him up with a Dolchik and you've got yourself a starter for pretty much every week, right? And tight end's not going to be a huge bright spot for this lineup, right? Neither is quarterback, right? Quarterback here, we're average at best. We have 2 contributors though, right? 2 contributors at tight end. Look at our running backs and wide receivers. We have 4 starting caliber running backs and 4 really good starting caliber wide receivers, right? Zay Jones, Rashee Rice, I would say high upside flyers. Now all we have to do for the rest of our draft, right, for the last 4 picks that we have is take high upside wide receivers, right? So we take everything off here. Let's just bring out the wide receiver board and start to pick out some of the top options. So we already have Rice in here, or else I would like to go after Justin Ross, but I'm going to throw Rashid Shaheed in there. Let's see. A lot of those rookie wide receivers are gone. We could throw Tank Dell, I suppose, onto the list. Van Jefferson's going to be gone, right? So I'm not going to hold out too much hope there that Van Jefferson is still there. But yeah, let's load those 3 on there for now. And let's see what happens. Maybe we do get a Van Jefferson to drop. Even Alec Pierce, right? He's decent in a half PPR kind of format. Maybe we get some sort of value to work with. He'll smash if no injury. I think I'll have an okay year, Justin. The issue I have with him is the Falcons offense, right? Top tier running backs are so tied to their offenses, especially when it comes to the touchdown production, that I'm a little bit hesitant there. The main reason is, right, no problem with the workload. He's going to get the workload if he's healthy. He'll be efficient, right? Really good running back. Those touchdown points are what make you like a top 5 running back, right? Which get you to that elite tier performance. I am not sold on the Falcons. So that's the issue for me. Just sent me a Chase game log. Cool. Yeah. If I touch my keyboard, it'll literally unplug. Cool. So let me bring it up over here on Discord so we can go through it together here, guys. Thank you for noticing that, because I was like, I really don't want to deal with this mic thing. It's a pain in the neck if you can't tell. So we're up in 5 picks. You have a little bit of time. So yeah, look at this. 10, 5, 6, 7, 7, 8. And he really came into his own towards the end of the year, right? Playoffs. And he started to get a lot more attention. So yeah, that might be it, man. I'm probably going to add that exposure, especially if we can find a pair, right? That's the key. We got to find something to mix it with. So let's see. We're up in 3 picks. Van Jefferson is still there. He's going to get sniped. There's 0 chance that he stays. But, like, is he hurt? No. I was going to say something had to have come out or something, right? Like, what's going on? He's like 30 below his ADP. He's the only one. Okay. Sure. You took Shaheed. I know I wanted Shaheed, right? I wanted Tank Dell. They both got drafted before me. But the one I wanted more than both of them was Van Jefferson. So, okay. Thank you, I guess, to the guys drafting around me, leaving me that value. So we're probably still looking at wide receiver, right? We're trying to find upside. We just have to find more options, right? Because the rest of them got drafted. I have no idea on this Michael Wilson guy. Rookie. Might just draft him because he's a rookie. Okay, well, there goes Michael Wilson. Got sniped right in front of our eyes. Let's see. Any other? We could go with Richie James, right? Like I said, I like my Kansas City targets. We go John Mechie, but we took him last draft. Let's see. Let me look at the rest of the board. Is there any like obvious value? No. You could go Kendre Miller, but we don't need it. You know, it's the perfect time for Taysom Hill. And you may say, Luke, you already have 2 decent tight ends, right? Why did you take Taysom Hill? You take Taysom Hill for the ceiling weeks, right? Taysom Hill, if he has a ceiling week, he's going to be our tight end, right? Or maybe one of those top 2 tight ends still goes off and we can use him in the wild card spot, right? So I think that he has enough upside to consider it that I'll take a Taysom Hill all day. That's fine. Especially like if he's falling in terms of like ADP. Like we got him at a fair ADP, I would say. That's fine. We'll take Taysom. Definitely somebody I like a lot more than the masses. Yo, Luke, do you have any thoughts on Etienne? You have him in. I have him in 2 leagues. I think he'll be all right. I like the fact that he's in an efficient offense, that he's going to get some sort of workload. So I'm there with you, man. I have some exposure. I'm cautiously optimistic. Tajay Sharp as a good D. Henry Handcuff looked good this preseason. Yeah, I don't know enough about him, but if you're saying he looked good the preseason, that's probably enough for me. Taysom Hill at 83.5, or you're saying Tyreek Hill, sorry, and Keenan Allen at 63.5 seem legit. Let's see. So the Keenan Allen one, I'm maybe not as sold on, but yeah, I love Tyreek Hill props. Let's see. So Tyreek Hill, 83.5, you're saying? Decent matchup against LAC. Oh boy. That just has shootout written all over it, huh? Like Herbert, Tua just like going for a million yards. I feel like that's what happens whenever they get matched up or have been matched up over the last few years. I like that. Maybe that's a pairing for the Dak Prescott prop, right? And go out there, mix that up, go out there, hopefully, get some profit. Let's see. Who was the other one? You were saying like, Keenan Allen, right? Like, I'm okay with Keenan Allen, but like that feels steep. Like, he's not a huge yards after catch guy. I just, nah. He's getting old, right? Like he's getting up towards those 30s, mid 30s, I think, in terms of age, maybe younger 30s. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I can go there, but Tyreek Hill, you might have me as a buyer there. This chase over 5.5 after seeing that game log, it might be the move too, especially if we can find a pairing for it, which I haven't done a complete breakdown of the board yet, right? So it's not like I have just a pairing ready yet, but I'm sure there's a decent amount of value. Those that Pickens prop was really easy to find. It took me about like 2 seconds to be like 30 yards for George Pickens. Like, okay, like what are we doing here? Price, I mean, underdog, right? Like that makes 0 sense given his game log last year. So we have 2 more picks left, right? So we have our round 17, our round 18 pick to go with here. We have 3 tight ends, so that's out of it. We already have our quarterbacks. We either need a running back or we need a wide receiver. And based on what I'm looking at here, I don't hate taking the Kansas City, Richie James. Let's go ahead and take him for our first pick here. And our last play, here's why I don't hate Kareem Hunt. So we're probably going to take Kareem Hunt if he's still there with our next pick, is that he could go to any team, right? There could be somebody that goes down mid-year, even a team like, let's say the Chiefs, right? Let's use the best case example, right? Let's say the Chiefs have like all their running backs get hurt. Let's say that like CH goes down, Pacheco gets hurt, right? Then somebody like, Hunt comes in, ends up as the starting running back. It'd be like the ultimate flyer spot, right? So this guy went out there and sniped him. So maybe he is listening to the stream out there, but it's that same kind of idea, right? You're looking for just pure flyers down here. You can see Leonard Fournette's the same thing, right? Maybe he gets signed to a team that goes out there and uses them more than you expect. Maybe somebody like Rashad White gets hurt, right? So if you were betting against Rashad White, maybe you'd take like a Chase Edmonds. There are enough flyers down here to make it work. I'm being forced to pick somebody I'm not going to love here. So I'm going to take a third quarterback. I'm going to take CJ Stroud. Again, these quarterbacks aren't great, but in tandem, right, having all 3 to work with, I think might be enough, right, for this kind of build. So this lineup, I really like our wide receivers. I think our running backs are really solid too. I feel pretty decent about both of those positions. Our tight ends, our quarterbacks, it's not great, right? But I think we make up for it in volume, right? We've got the 3 quarterbacks to work with, right? We've got 3 tight ends on our roster, might make it okay because our top 4 wide receivers are running backs that we took. I'm stoked about, right? I kind of wish we had more running backs to work with, but because we have 4 such quality players, I mean, assuming none of them get injured, right? We should be okay. So that's all for the second draft. Let's see. Are we going to do a third draft or call it a night? We might call it a night. It's just our first time doing a live stream here this year. There will be plenty more throughout the week. So we'll be doing live streams together here again for best ball. We'll probably do ones over there on Draftkings as well. And I want to go ahead and get a poll on this at some point. Who wants to be over there in the community draft? So to be eligible for the community draft, you have to be 2 things, right? One, you got to pay the entry fee, right? Which I'm thinking will probably make $100. It'll be first place will get like 60%, second place will get like 40. Maybe we'll adjust that. We'll see. But more importantly, you have to be willing to be on live stream. So you don't have to have a webcam or anything. You do have to be willing to have a mic and be on Discord though. So just planning the idea now. We'll talk about it a few more times throughout the week as we get an idea for when we're going to draft. But if that's something that you're willing to do, you want to come on live stream, talk some shit, build some lineups together and do our community draft, let me know. You can reach out to me on Twitter, reach out to me here on live streams, over on Discord, whatever the case may be. But that's the requirement. You have to be willing to get into the chat room and at least make it a little spicy, right? And I'm hoping we get some sort of, shit talking going, maybe some side action when it comes to some prop bets and see what we can work with. So that's all we've got for now. Let's see what we got in terms of questions and we'll hop on out of here. So fair enough. You do agree that the Falcons are terrible and could see them ruining him like they did with Kyle Pitts. Yep. You're willing to buy the upside though, for sure. Yeah, I mean, he might just get it done via like volume, right? Just might get enough targets, enough, carries to get it done that way. I could see that for sure, Justin. So, alrighty, that's all we've got. Plenty more drafts to come. Check out the Patreon for all the news over there in terms of how I'm doing the tiers, the price increase, and all of that. I appreciate all of you guys. Smash that like button on the way out of here, and look out for all the rest of the content throughout the week.